There are few who can deny that 2003's Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl was a cultural phenomenon. A triumph on almost every level, it revolutionized the concept of the modern blockbuster and was a smash hit for Disney at a time when they sorely needed a win. Given its massive popularity, it was almost inevitable that a sequel would be made, and while the turnaround was a full 3 years, the resulting product never really felt as special as the first. Don't get me wrong, Dead Man's Chest was a swashbuckling tale that hit mostly the same notes as Curse of the Black Pearl. It's just that the intangible magic of the first outing seems to have been extracted in favor of a more corporatized flavor that valued bulking out the runtime over telling a gripping story. My suspicion has always been that Dead Man's Chest and At World's End were originally written as a single movie that was split into two parts for the purposes of milking the franchise for as much money as possible. Now, I don't have any insider information to back this up, and it's unlikely that anyone would ever outright admit it, but whenever I watch it, I just can't shake the feeling that this was never intended to be two movies. The crux of my argument rests on the tonal dissonance that occurs from scene to scene in Dead Man's Chest, and in some cases from line to line. So that's what we'll be taking a look at today. Now, as always, I'd recommend watching Dead Man's Chest to familiarize yourself with the story and plot beats, so you have context for my commentary. We aren't just doing a plot breakdown here, so be aware. Ready? Let's get into it. The movie opens on Will and Elizabeth's wedding day. The tone is sad, the rain is coming down, and Elizabeth looks forlorn. We then cut to warships in the harbor of Port Royal, and a large detachment of redcoats making their way to the beach. We learn that the East India Trading Company, then the most powerful corporation on the planet, has arrived. They, through Cutler Beckett,
It's Lord now, actually,
are arresting everyone involved with the events of the previous film, and are also looking for Jack Sparrow.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
By including the East India Company, this sets the movie up as an almost political thriller, intended to couch the varying machinations and motivations of the characters as the story progresses. After this sequence, we get our first true look at what this movie wanted to be. Cutting to an imposing bastion on an island somewhere, we get images of torture, fear, and pain. This is a prison where men are left to rot and die, a place where there is no hope, no joy, and no escape. Bodies are unceremoniously dropped into the ocean to ram home just how little value is given to human life. What's going on here? Why have we been sent to such a place? How does this connect to the plot as we understand it?
Don't know.
Captain Jack shoots his way out of a coffin and we're off to the races. This little sequence is a vibe. In the 2 minutes that were given with this prison, it felt so well characterized that I got cognitive whiplash when Jack appeared, having already broken out. I would honestly bet money that at one point in the scriptwriting process there was a whole sequence involving Jack and his trials here as he sought the key to Davy Jones' chest. That's the script I wanted, with its dark tone and terrifying imagery. Let's refer to this as Tone A. Alas, the prison is shuffled unceremoniously off-screen as Jack boards the Pearl to meet his crew of red shirts. We're then given our first look at the poorer quality of writing.
If we don't have the key, we can't open whatever it is we don't have that it unlocks. So what purpose would be served in finding whatever need be unlocked, which we don't have, without first having found the key what unlocks it?
This little speech was written by somebody who watched the first movie and thought they understood how to write Jack's snappy dialogue. It is completely at odds with the scenes that bookend it and perfectly represents the downgrade in quality that the sequels took. It's an executive's take on Jack Sparrow, not a writer's. Let's call this Tone B. A few moments later, we're also handed the compass problem. Played several times as a weak limp dick joke, it makes no sense within the context of the rest of the movie, nor indeed the series. Jack Sparrow knows what he wants, the heart of Davy Jones. He knows that it's in a locked chest somewhere, and he knows that he has to get the key to get it.
Ergo, Latin.
He needs the key. Full stop. Based on what we know about the compass, it'll point him to the key, just like it did with the Isla de Muerta, even if he doesn't know where it is. I don't know why the writers felt it necessary to include this little subplot, beyond using it as a way to move the characters from location to location. The only argument, as far as I can see, is that given that Jones isn't always on our plane of reality, the compass can't always find him. Therefore, Jack needs to go to Tia Dalma to find out where Jones is going to be in the future, not where he is at the present. Moving on, we come to Will Turner and Lord Cutler Beckett striking a deal. For full pardons for himself, Elizabeth, and her father, Will is going to find the compass. It's at this point that we learn that Beckett is the one who branded Jack as a pirate. This scene brings the quality of the writing back to full force. We are given stakes for Will, a tie-in for Beckett to give him history in this world, and a possible conflict for later in the movie. Will betraying Jack to get the compass. The stage is set. Next we come to another darker scene, Jack's interaction with Bootstrap Bill Turner. We're presented with the true abject horror of what Bill Turner faced before the events of the first movie. Dumped to the crushing depths, Bill cut a deal with Jones to save himself, and his decision makes perfect sense. 100 years as a fish man, or man-fish, or an eternity at the bottom of the ocean.
Unable to move, unable to die, Jack.
This scene brings back the palpable fear of Tone A. It sets Jones up as a legitimate threat with untold powers and a near unlimited reach. And as an aside, I'd like to mention that this line,
"And to what do I owe the pleasure of your carbuncle?"
is how you write the pithy Jack talk from the first movie. It's snappy, it's off the cuff, and it allows Johnny Depp to keep Jack Sparrow cool, calm, and collected. This Jack doesn't run around screaming and waving his arms like a wacky, waving, inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Next we come to the Cannibal Island. I hate everything about this sequence. From top to bottom, it is a pointless diversion from the main plot that serves no purpose from a narrative perspective. There is no character development, no connection to the Davy Jones plotline, and no repercussions for the characters once they've left it behind. All we really got out of it was a gag that Indiana Jones did better 25 years ago. Soaking up a full 19 and a half minutes, this is my primary evidence that the original script was split in two. The Pelagostus Island was, in every sense of the word, filler. Moving swiftly on, we're back to the good stuff as the crew heads towards Teodalma's shack. A lovely little callback to the ride, it sets the eerie stage for us to learn where Jones is and how Jack can get the key. Which then brings us to what is arguably the most important scene of the movie, the introduction of Davy Jones. This whole sequence brings Tone A back to the forefront. Dead bodies litter the shipwreck, a half-alive, traumatized man speaks to Will in riddles about the Kraken, and then the crew of the Flying Dutchman make their first appearance. In the darkness of night, these men are terrifying. Each one has been transformed into a unique monster, their bodies horrifyingly asymmetrical. Then we get our first look at the man himself, Davy Jones. Played to perfection by Bill Nighy, Jones still looks gorgeous, even almost 20 years later.
Do you feel death?
With all the supernatural wheeling and dealing going on, we finally get more of the authentically written Jack talk.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle, now we're just haggling over price.
Jack Sparrow works as a character because we are given the impression that he is always one step ahead. This line and its delivery give the impression that he already knew how his conversation with Jones was going to end, and this is his checkmate to the Caribbean Charon. The next sequence I'd like to talk about is Will's experiences aboard the Flying Dutchman. Opening with a tonally perfect melody played by Davy Jones, we are treated to life aboard the Dutchman, and how brutal and unforgiving it is. As I rewatched the film in preparation for this video, I found myself wondering if this scene wasn't originally written with Jack in mind. This is entirely my opinion, and it's nothing overt, but the kinds of things Will does, and his punishment for failing them, would have been a humbling experience for Sparrow, and a very interesting piece of character development. The dice game in particular reveals a Machiavellian bent to Will that we haven't seen before, but that would not have been out of place for Jack. This is exactly how he would have discovered the key's location had he been aboard. Having everyone look left, well, he goes right. I will say, however, that the game itself felt a little gimmicky, but I'll forgive it given how well the rest of the scene is put together. Glossing over the Tortuga sequence and its unresolved plot thread, we find ourselves in the endgame. Everyone is reunited at the chest, the Kraken has been unleashed, and we're beaten over the head with yet more runtime padding with the ridiculous three-way duel that Norrington, Jack, and Will perform. With the Cannibal Island fresh in my mind, it became glaringly obvious that the writers had tried to one-up the duel in the blacksmith shop from the previous film, and instead just made it ridiculous. Although, we are given yet more Jack talk when he flips Norrington's motivation on its head.
Who was it that at the very moment you had a notorious pirate safely behind bars, saw fit to free said pirate and take your dearly beloved all to himself? Hey, so whose fault is it really that you've ended up a rum-pot deckhand what takes orders from pirates?
The rest of the movie reverts to tone B, with bombastic, physics-defying stunts that were more CG than practical. I'll be honest, at this point I was so desensitized to it that my eyes just kind of glazed over whenever the Kraken was on screen. The scale of it was so large that in the end I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Dead Man's Chest, despite its numerous issues, went on to gross $650 million at the box office, and set the stage for the final chapter in the trilogy, At World's End. I can't blame Disney for wanting to capitalize on the IP, but goddamn, I wish they had prioritized the writing over the special effects and stunts. Honestly, it's a trap that many movies of the era fell into, and it's one that persists to this day. Additionally, I firmly believe that this movie is the reason why the final chapters of so many stories of this era all split into two parts. Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and Twilight all saw what pirates did and decided to squeeze a few $100 million more out of their audiences, much to the irritation of said audiences. Anyway, that's all I've got for you this time, so if you could do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons, I'd really appreciate it. Every little bit really helps me out. Also, go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel, or hit up my website to see my blog and maybe buy one of my books on Amazon. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.